All right, friends, happy Friday. Welcome back to our read aloud for today. Today, we are going to continue building on our schema and think about the main idea of apples and how we can answer some questions that we're thinking about to build our schema on knowing about those apples. So I have a different nonfiction text today that I've checked out from our library. This is called Apples, and it's written by Ian Burkhart. So if it just says by with one person's name next to it, that means that person is the author and the illustrator. So this person wrote the words and took the pictures, the actual photographs that are in this. This is also a chapter book, and it has a table of contents, which is a list that tells you different topics of apples and what page number they're on. So for example, the first one says, what are apples? We can find that out on page 5. The next one says different kinds of apples. Well, if we want to learn about that, we can flip to page 7. Again, we don't have to read it all in a certain order. We can just turn to the information that we want to learn. But since we are still learning about the apples, we are going to start from the beginning. Down at the bottom too, it says the words that are in boldface that are dark black are the important words that we need to know. And those words are also in the back of our book, and it tells us what those words mean. So something to look out for as I'm reading. So we're going to start on page 5 with what are apples? It says, apples are one of the most popular fruits. The world produces more than 2 billion bushels of apples every year. The average person eats 50 apples every year. Different kinds of apples. There are more than 7,500 different kinds of apples. That's 7,500 kinds of apples. Some are grown to be sold in stores. These include what we saw in our other book, Macintosh, Granny Smith, Delicious, Golden Delicious, and Rome apples. Parts of an apple. An apple has 5 main parts. They are the skin, flesh, core, seeds, and stem. So the skin's the outside part. The flesh is this part right here, the white part that you see. The core is the middle. The seeds are in the core, and then the stem is the brown part on top. The skin of an apple can be red, yellow, or green. The flesh of an apple can taste sweet or tart. So tart means kind of bittery. Where do apples grow? Apples grow on an apple tree. They grow best in areas that have cool winters. During the winter, apple trees prepare for growing again. The state of Washington produces the most apples in North America. So just like we live in Kentucky, there's a different state, and they have the most apples, not Kentucky. How do apples grow? In the spring, buds appear on apple tree branches. The buds grow leaves and then flowers. When the flowers die, green bulges start growing in their place. These bulges grow into apples. So this is another way of telling us how our apples come from the apple blossoms. Harvest. So here's some more information about what those farmers do. Apples are ready to harvest when they can be easily pulled off the tree. Harvesters pick the apples by hand. They use ladders to reach the high branches. How we use apples. Apples are used to make many things. Apple cider, apple sauce, and apple butter are all made with apples. Eating an apple is very good for your teeth. New information for us. Here's some history about apples. Pilgrims brought apples to North America, and President Washington and Jefferson both grew apple trees. Johnny Appleseed lived in the early 1800s. He walked from farm to farm planting apple seeds for many years. The reason I read this page, we could have skipped this, but we're going to read a story about Johnny Appleseed soon and learn how he planted so many seeds. Apples and people. People say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. They say some things are as American as apple pie. New York City which is a big city in the state of New York, is called the Big Apple. That's its nickname. And here at the end of our book are bold words: bushel, flesh, harvest, and tart. Those are some words that might be different. And then it also has some information back here of how to make an apple pomander. So that's just an air freshener, but it gives you a little craft to do in this book of apples. All right, so we just read information that we've already learned about apples, but we also added to our schema. So I want you to ask yourself, what is one fact that I just learned in our book about apples that I didn't already know? Did I know about where the apples grow? Yeah, we do, because we learned that apples grow on apple trees, right? Okay, what about the number of different kinds of apples? We knew there were different kinds of apples, but we did not know that there were 7,500 different kinds of apples. That is a lot of different apples, right? Okay, we also learned the different parts of the apple. So on this page, it told us the names of the different parts. What do we call the outside part? The skin. What do we call that white part? The flesh. What do we call the little guy in the middle here? The seeds. What are the seeds inside of? The core. And what's this brown thing on top? The stem. Very good. All information we keep storing up here in our brains. Okay, so next week we will take a look at our apples again and see what we've already learned, and then we'll read a story about Johnny Appleseed, which I think you're really gonna like, and see how he spent his time a long time ago planting seeds all over to grow all kinds of apple trees for us. All right, friends, great job today working towards your learning target of building your schema about apples and asking yourself some questions of what do you want to know about apples and what have I learned from reading this. So have a great weekend, friends, and I will see you next week.